my name's Austin, and as someone who went from a 7.5 to an 8.5 in the IELTS test, I might as well share how I did it. First of all, a huge tip that I can recommend is going over reading and listening first. Their progress is the most quantifiable and they are the most objective, so you can really practice it a lot. On the other hand, growth for speaking and writing is more nuanced because they are more subjective and they depend on where you take the IELTS test. However, I cannot stress this enough, but you have to fulfill the minimum requirements for the university. So if you do have a section that doesn't fulfill that requirement, you have to focus on that section first. So first of all, to get started, you need study materials. We can go to litgan.rs and search for the IELTS book, maybe the IELTS 15, and download the PDF file from there. Now once the PDF file is downloaded, you can look at the book, and books are perfect for the reading and listening sections as they are designed to be as similar as possible to the IELTS test. Now these books also have speaking and writing, but they are just prompts, but you can definitely practice them on your own. First of all, what I can suggest you to do is keep on grinding the IELTS listening test from the book, and like the audio files can be found online. Here's some tips that I actually did for the listening test to improve my score. First of all, use the time for checking answers to read the questions of the next section. Basically, there's 30 seconds to check your answers every part, and like
that is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Use that instead to get an overview of the next questions, like get an overview, read all 10 questions of the next part. Then you can use the next 30 seconds, which is given to you before actually listening to the audio.
First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14.
And you can use this one to read the first part of the next listening section, like the first 5 questions or the first 4 questions. And maybe use like the last 15 seconds of that 30 seconds to read the first 2 questions thoroughly, so that you know exactly what you're actually going to listen about. As for reading, I'd say just like listening, keep on grinding it from the IELTS book, like the Cambridge IELTS book. However, the tips for this might be slightly different. First, I recommend watching this video from IELTS Advantage. Like
IELTS reading,
it's so useful, and it gives you all sorts of questions and how to answer them. But basically, here's the gist of it. When there's heading questions, you start with that first. And like do it first because they help you in answering all the other questions. Now, do the where this information is located question last, because you have to get the gist, like you have to read through the whole thing to actually know where the information is located, so just do that one last. On the other hand, if there are any other types of questions, you can do it just as ordered, because they'll appear in the passage just like the questions appear, like it's chronological, so just do it as it's ordered. Now if your score is stagnant, try doing progressive overload. So first of all, if you're actually forcing yourself to do everything in 60 minutes, what you can do is like maybe don't limit your time, like just do it with unlimited time first, and record how much time you spent on it and whether you improved on it or not. So maybe you start with 90 minutes and get down to 80, get down to 70, get down to 60, and that'll definitely help. IELTS is very harsh on the grading of writing, but you can see improvement here because it's observable and like it's linear as well, but it's just very, very harshly curved. Here are some general tips. You do not have to learn complex vocabularies for this part. In fact, I scored a 7.5 and I didn't even know what sparse or disinterested means. Now, the most important aspect of your writing is the flow of your sentences. Your writing has to be nice to read, comprehensible, and structured well. Well, how do you do this? Here's some study materials that I use. First of all, there's this thing called IELTS Lily. You can find her on YouTube, and she makes the most detailed guides ever. And it'll definitely help you wrap your mind around how to score at least 7 on IELTS, and it'll definitely help. It definitely helped me. And then to make your writing flow, you have to learn about transitions and connectors. You can find these in Digital SAT of the Khan Academy course. Basically, there's this thing called as the grammar section of the Digital SAT, and you can find boundaries, connectors, transitions, and stuff like that. Just practice them there. You grind these, and you'll get good at it. And maybe you make some of the sentences yourself so that you can memorize them in your head. It'll help you a lot. Just grind these and it'll help you a lot. Furthermore, you have to paraphrase a lot for your IELTS Part 1. And to do this, there's some websites that you can use. Try to memorize at least 2 to 3 words of the same meaning, like the synonym. Just try to remember 2 to 3 words. You don't have to remember all of it. Watch IELTS Lily. It's very, very important to know about the structure. I would suggest doing these to organize your mind. First of all, there's this thing called as ideation. Spend 3 to 7 minutes on this part. Make them in the bullet points and you can erase them later, so it's fine. Now spend 25 to 30 minutes actually writing, because writing this doesn't take that long actually, because you just expand upon your beforehand ideas, which is already made in the ideation part. Now you must spend at least 5 minutes checking your answers, checking your writing. I think that's the best way to guarantee that you don't have any grammar mistakes or repetition of vocabularies or stuff like that, because they can impact your scores. Now for speaking, it is the least practicable as it comes from experience in talking in English, and also it's the most subjective. Your IELTS examiner tells your score. Anyhow, if you want your score to improve, here's some tips. Speaking part 1, just give 1 to 2 sentences. You just answer that and maybe give either a reason or an example based on your experience. For instance, for this question, I can answer, I would like to be a chemist 10 years from now, because I have had a lot of experience in chemistry competitions before, winning a lot of competitions, and that made me like chemistry even more. Now that is a reason for my answer. Now for speaking part 2, you do not have to focus on the bullet points. You do not have to answer them. Just make sure to stick to the topic. You can talk about whatever. So for my prompt, it was about what work would you enjoy, and I answered chemistry, being a chemist. And I expanded upon it by saying, chemistry is about atoms, and atoms make up nuclear stuff, and plutonium or stuff like that. I talked about that instead of talking about my job, and that was still good, because speaking prioritizes your flow. Now for speaking part 3, I'd suggest think of 1 to 3 ideas, maybe 1 to 2 ideas actually. 2 ideas is the best, and try to expand them upon expand upon them with examples from your personal experience again, or reasons again. I think that's the best way to answer these kind of questions. For instance, for this question, by reading books to their children, parents can increase their children's creativity and critical thinking skills, because every time you read a book, you will make your children imagine about that book, like the situations, the events happening in that book, and by imagining, they'll get creative, and they can also use that creativity to imagine an ending for that. Other than that, children will probably enjoy it. Like, this is the best form of entertainment because you get social contact with your parents, and so children will definitely appreciate something like this. You do not have to worry too much about simple grammar mistakes or forcing complex vocabularies. Just make sure your speaking is flowing. Also, this is important, but try to keep up a smile. Like, when you're talking, try to keep up a smile. I think by doing that, you will sound more excited, and the examiners will definitely appreciate it more, and maybe they'll like you more and give you a better score. Who knows? Now, you will definitely burn out one day, which is completely fine. I also did. However, if you are completely burnt out on one section, do try to focus on other sections. Don't lose your momentum. For instance, I was at one point burnt out with the writing section because I kept on getting 6.5. So I started learning about reading and listening and speak, and I started feeling better because I was improving in those parts, and then when I started writing, I had my motivation again. Also, for the last 1 until 2 days before the IELTS test, do not spend too much time practicing. You'll definitely do worse because of that. This will definitely drop your ability in thinking properly, and it'll probably reduce your confidence as well, which is bad. Right, thank you. Bye bye.